Shabbat Shalom. I have a friend who is just a deep, straightforward, good person. Just a good person. But I've noticed that often through the years that this person gets misunderstood or sometimes gets judged by other people because they don't carry with them all the calculations that most of us carry ourselves with, thinking, how are we going to manage this relationship? How are we going to carry ourselves in this arena? How are we going to bring this part of ourselves forward in that situation? And the truth is not that this person is somehow foolish or simple-minded. In fact, I think they understand human beings more than most of us. But this is just a place that they've chosen to live their life by. And it's something we call in our tradition timimut, simplicity, or we could say holy simplicity. Because we all carry so many masks in the world. And it's part of the grand play of life. And this is, of course, part of the themes of Purim, that we all carry masks. As Shakespeare says, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in this time plays many parts. And in the Purim story, there are so many parts. We recognize them, right? We have the fool, King Achashverosh. We have the villain, Haman. We have the beauty, Esther. We have the wise person, Mordechai. So we all play our parts. And the masks we wear help us to play the game of life with smarts and the wisdom, and not to get swept aside by all the events and games that invariably happen before us. But there's also a danger in all these masks, and that is when all the calculating leads to us forgetting what is the very purpose of the game we're playing in the first place, and why we're wearing the mask, or marrying the mask, and where we're trying to go with all of it. Because we're too busy playing the game, we don't see anymore how to not play the game. There's this beauty to simplicity, straightforward and clear ideas and practices. And the person I'm describing, people sometimes think that they're simple, but they're just really living powerfully by their ideals. And despite how complex our tradition seems, and it is, at its core is this beautiful simplicity. So we have our long prayers, but in the Torah, when Moses wants to say a prayer of healing for his sister Miriam, he just says 5 words, El na refana la, please, O Lord, heal her. And that's it. There's a beautiful comment by Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, a Hasidic teacher. He says, simplicity is higher than everything else. Quoting the Psalms, no good thing will he, God, withhold from those who walk betamim, in sincerity and simplicity. And even in the Purim story, we often think of Mordechai as being complex and even cunning, the wise orchestrator of events. But really, he's pretty simple in his own way as well. When Haman comes into the gate, he doesn't think about it. He refuses to bow, which brings great travail upon him and upon his community. When he hears of the decree against the Jews, he doesn't think about it, he just acts. He puts sackcloth on his head, he goes to the palace and tries to speak to the queen. And he doesn't mince his words with her, he just says, if you don't act now, then you're going to perish, just like all of us. Maybe he's not so calculating, he just follows who he is and his ideals with simplicity, as that psalm says. And this becomes a whole idea in Hasidic thought. And Rabbi Elimelech of Lizinsk says on that same verse from Psalms, no good thing will God withhold from those who walk betamim in sincerity and simplicity, because the way of God is to do good. Therefore, he will not hold back good from those who walk with sincerity and simplicity on whatever level, whatever place they are in themselves, as long as they act with that sincerity and simplicity. And that somehow this simplicity reflects the beautiful simplicity of the world and nature itself. A few weeks ago, I was at the Museum of Science and Industry, and there was a traveling exhibit, and it was about all of the shapes in nature, the beehive, the spirals, and how beautiful and extraordinary they are, just in their simplicity and their innate beauty. And even when they do become more complicated and repeated in all the shapes and forms of nature within insects and what they build, there's always maintains an inner sense of harmony and clarity to the overall structure. And the exhibit was also about how the best architects try and mimic that sense of the shapes of nature, because those simple designs bring us also that sense of harmony and balance, while complex designs tend to clutter our minds and our hearts. And so maybe the teaching is that the same is true with our inner space of our own being. And it's not about being foolish or blind, having blind faith or being simple-minded, but being direct in who we are and what is important to us, and being completely honest with ourselves and the world. In our parsha this morning, the children of Israel finally build the tabernacle, and it just happens in this same beautiful, simple way. And the Torah repeats every part that's already talked about, except this time it's telling you the tabernacle was built according to everything as God commanded Moses. As God commanded Moses. And they simply went ahead and they just did it. They just followed the instructions. No more wondering, no more questions, no more, how do we do this, or why do we do this, or should we build a golden calf instead? They just followed it and they just did it, and they built the wondrous tabernacle. So not always easy answers in our world, but we can still follow holy simplicity. We can know how powerful it is to be centered in who we are. We can put aside some of the masks that we wear and live in that space that transcends the theater of life, but that nonetheless moves all of it forward with the power of the divine, one straightforward and honest step at a time. Shabbat Shalom.